So, it seems that crypto bros are only human. And just like me and Kale, when we come up with a banger meme, they want to say, no, it was my idea first. So, Bancor is suing Uniswap over DEX technology. But more on that in a minute. Welcome to Cryptocurrents, your weekly no-nonsense crypto news podcast from people in crypto who have real jobs in crypto. No FOMO, no shilling, just thoughtful discussion of stuff that makes sense and thoughtful trolling of stuff that doesn't. I'm Katya Michaels, your host today. Our regular host, Vince, is out experiencing the world off-chain for a change. Meanwhile, I'm joined by our resident degen Kale that you're very familiar with.
Hello.
And I'm very excited to welcome back our founder, Kosal.
Hello, hello.
And by the way, we just realized, Kale and I today, happy Bitcoin Pizza Day
Oh yeah, it's pizza day today.
and all-time high day on the same day. Isn't that great? That's amazing, right?
What are the chances?
Yeah, we're, an Ethereum wallet, but we love ourselves some Bitcoin, and we are having some exciting news coming up about that, but you will have to follow us on socials to find out about that. So, the biggest news, I think, for a while in crypto has been the Coinbase breach. We touched on that briefly on our last podcast, but at that point, the news was literally a few hours old, last Thursday. And since then, the story has developed a bit, and there's a lot of blowback Coinbase is facing because allegedly the leak happened much earlier than the public found out. I think as early as December 26, 24, that Coinbase was already aware of issues and, has not made the public aware until just now. There's some experts are saying there was too much access from support to user data, which is what led to the problem. And some are even saying that there's physical threat to users because, their addresses and balances were exposed. So, unfortunately, one of the Ledger founders who was kidnapped, for his money recently in Europe, some users are afraid of physical threats and attacks. So, Coinbase is one of the biggest, if not the biggest player in crypto in the United States. So what are you guys, what is your guys' reaction to this developing story? And what do you think about the threat? How real is the threat to the users?
That's a good question. I mean, since I've been in the space, I would say in 2014, this has always been a case. Obviously, there are phishing attacks. This is a non-technical type of phishing attack in a way because they reached out directly to the customer support people and then asked them for hey, by the way, we'll pay you. Give us the information. This can totally happen, and it's very unfortunate that it happened to Coinbase. And then I was also reading about things on how the backlash that Coinbase is having right now. Why didn't they disclose it in advance? They could have done it if it was December 26th, this is what fifth month, 5 months ago basically.
Yeah.
If they let us know in advance, we could have taken precautionary measures, be ready. Hey, by the way, this can happen. And even be on extra lookout for phishing emails, for example, and then targeted emails, right? Hey, I'm a target, my information is leaked. I have to be extra cautious now. So things like that could have prevented a lot of losses, in my opinion. And I heard, Coinbase is actually accepting the fact that people lost closer to $500 million already.
And they're planning to compensate, right? Everyone.
I think up to 400 million or something so far. So which is great that they're taking some like they are accepting the fault in a way, which is great. And then that's also something that I'm noticing more and more in the space as well, which is great because like in the past, whenever there's a massive crypto hack or blockchain attack, that like unfortunately no one refunded the money to the users, right? Like no one took the responsibility for it. It might have been because like the companies back then didn't even have the funds to refund, for example, if it's a massive attack. But like recently we've seen it with that exchange hack that took almost $1.5 billion, but they took full responsibility and then they're like, hey, we'll cover it. Like nothing's gonna happen to the users. And even FTX is like kind of refunding in a way, up to a certain extent. So it's great to see that in the space that it's happening. People are taking responsibility and doing as much as they can to the user base, because at the end of the day, crypto user base is small. Like it's not that big, right?
Comparatively.
Comparatively, like it's not 8 billion, like it's not the whole population. So even if we start losing like 10,000 here, 100,000 over there, we might not move forward in blockchain world. So that's not something.
But that's a great point. Like if it was like 3 billion people who lost, like even Coinbase couldn't compensate all of that. So that's a great question, about what they would do.
I'm glad it is, in a way, like Coinbase is compensating the affected users, but unfortunately, like yes, they could have done better handling of this situation, especially if they known it like 5 months ago, before the people even came out and like asked for the ransom, right? Like $20 million. I think the only reason that forced Coinbase to come forward with it is because of the ransom that they were asking.
Yeah,
Kayla,
it's cool to see.
Outraged? You look outraged.
I'm just so outraged. It's cool to see, like Kasala said, that Coinbase is actually taking the initiative and like paying some of it back, even though it might not be 100%. Like at least they're trying. They're doing something. It's nice to see. But I think the danger is very real, for customers and all of these people. Like even average Joes. Like so many people's data got leaked that it's like, if a user just had maybe just like $5,000 or just a few $1,000s, and then it's like the hacker or scammer looks at the person's account maybe 2 years from now and it's like worth much more now 2 years from now, and it's like, well, now that person is still at risk, because the scammer can hold that data for however long, and utilize it whenever they want to utilize it. So yeah, it's definitely a very scary thing that happened, but I mean, what can you do?
And I saw some analysts talking about it, that a lot of these big players lately are moving towards becoming like the everything app for finance, right? Like they are like Kraken adds stocks, Robinhood expands crypto, Visa and MasterCard are adding stable coins, so there's, we've touched on this a lot before, that there's a big TradFi crypto fusion going on. But in this particular case, you have a centralized player where a lot of users' identity data is centralized and kept by them, address, name, everything like that. So arguably, the more it becomes an everything app, the more everything is your banking, your crypto, whatever is in one place. All of that is tied to your data. And if that data is exposed, then everything is exposed. Your banking and your crypto and your loans and, everything that's so in one big chunk. So, which is a real danger. Now, this is a centralized player. So I wonder, what is kind of the place of self-custody solutions in this whole kind of big mess? Because a self-custody wallet doesn't collect anything, not even your name, not even your phone number, nothing. Kosala, like, you've been, Mew has been a self-custody wallet for 10 years now, ever since the beginning. And you've always been a self-custody tool developer, right? So what do you think about that? The place of self custody in this like whole safety concern.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's like this is why self custody, like going back to like the basics of crypto, right? Basics of blockchain. This is what I hate. Like that currently the way that world is moving forward is not the initial goal of blockchain. Like it's not a like initial the goal was decentralization, right? Like everything has to be decentralized. Everything has to be like self custodial. But unfortunately, that's not the way that the world is moving forward right now. Like I love ETFs bringing more money into Bitcoin and Ethereum and all the other cryptos it also means that the commerce side of like the current TradFi is coming into crypto, which also means that like we are more centralizing crypto right now than decentralizing it. So there's like, yeah, it's a double-edged sword. Going back to collecting information, and I've been an advocate of not collecting any information since the beginning. So we still like don't collect any information other than obviously if you directly email us asking a question. Even that we only save it for like 6 months. That's it. Like after 6 months, all your information is gone. You don't even have to worry about like us getting, even if our like the support platform, if it gets hacked or something, we only have 6 months of data, and then we immediately let everyone know, hey, by the way, this happened, and then we are aware of it, and like we are taking precautions. That's for sure the best way to hold crypto. I'm still a strong believer in that is by having self-custodial wallet, and that way, like none of your information get leaked. Unfortunately, the problem is that people still need to deal with the fiat, right? The fiat by itself is controlled, regulated, and you can't just like send back and forth fiat or anything like that. And that's where you have to do KYC, AML, and all those things. And then when you do that, obviously your information is saved somewhere for a better experience in the future. Because if you have to do KYC every time you have to buy $100 worth of like Bitcoin or ETH, that's not going to happen, right? Like people will give up pretty easily.
That's the eternal problem of privacy versus convenience, right?
Yeah.
Everywhere. You see it everywhere. You either get one or the other, or like when the other one goes, it's
exactly.
a reverse relationship.
It's really hard to balance that. But however, that said, I'm starting to see a lot more, like for example, like stocks are getting tokens in crypto now. Stocks are getting tokenized. Like treasury bonds are getting tokenized.
Put everything on chain.
With everything on chain, right? So like if you somehow in the past got into crypto or via like one of these methods, now you don't have to go through any other KYC AML process. You can just buy them directly and earn interest, right? Like 5 years ago that was not a possibility. But that's changing. So in a way, your brokerage accounts are coming to blockchain world now, so that you don't have to do any of like the signing up process with any of the brokerage firms. Because at the end of the day, like all these problems are centralized problems, right? Like Coinbase, you can think of it as a centralized exchange. Same thing with like Charles Schwab or like Fidelity or anything. Like those people can also get hacked the exact same way, and their information can get leaked, and then people can like target those users in a very specific manner, and then they can get access to their funds. The difference is obviously like stocks and anything not on chain is directly associated with the person, so it's easily trackable, but not obviously when it's not in blockchain. I think it comes down to educating the users. We go back and forth about this. It's like there's no way we can onboard like billion users and be like, hey, by the way, this is how it's going to be, and you might lose funds 50% of the time. That's not a good way. So I think education comes first before onboarding the users. So I think everyone has to follow that.
But Kale, like, would you so like there's two directions, right? You can centralize all the everything app, the everything finance app. You can centralize everything with Coinbase, all of your bank. Would you, if you could, do the opposite, decentralize everything? Like if you could put your bank account off chain and everything off
100%.
chain, and obviously crypto already in a self custody wallet, and what would you like
Yeah,
everything self custody?
100%. But because like I feel like maybe it was just the way I was like raised. I don't know, but like I feel like it's worth the extra work, like for the
I love,
security
by the
of
way,
self-custody.
that at this point already, like crypto is, like less than 20 years old, but Kale says, I was raised to respect self custody. I am loving this.
Oh yeah.
Kale was raised for self custody. I mean, come on.
No, I just mean like security matters. Security is important, and if that means I need to write down 12 words to manage my money, then so be it. Like that's worth it to me. And so, yeah, like, but like also I'm not a dev, so it's like maybe ZK decentralized databases will fix like these types of data breaches from happening in the future, but like I don't know how to build that. Like I don't know where to start. So yeah, I don't know. If it were up to me, I would love to have everything self custody. But
Kale's point, which is great, because like at the end of the day, I think like the people, any company should only have access to the information that they need temporarily. Like for example, if they only need to know whether I'm 18 years or older, like they don't have to know my exact age, right? Like they just need to know, okay, this person is over 18 years of age. But the problem is current KYC process, you have to give all your information, like your driver's license,
KYC
everything,
becomes the weak point.
Yeah, and then obviously all this the information gets saved somewhere, and now that's a central point of failure, or single point of failure, where if you want to hack that database or address book, they have all the information, not necessarily, Kosala is over 18 years of age, I would love to be below 18 years of age at this point, but I'm at least I'm getting pretty close to double.
Have you arrived to a point where you're not even getting carded anymore? Because
now it's like if the bartender's like, hey, like I want to see your ID card, it becomes a joke. We are at that like, oh yeah, thank you for asking for the card.
There is a brief period where they kind of know that you're over 21, but they're still asking you for the card, and it's not a joke. And then eventually it gets to a point where you're like, you're not even gonna.
Yeah. I think I'm at the joke. Like it's a 50-50. Sometimes they're like making a joke out of it, but if obviously the person is super busy or whatever, they're like, yeah, here you go. Here's your drink. Take it and go.
Yeah. Well, Coinbase, is just having a crazy time. Not just the breach, it had like, speaking of drinks, I hope, Armstrong is there, is having some top shelf stuff available to him, because I think he needs it. There was the S&P, the breach, right after it, at least the announcement, because as we now know, the actual breach happened earlier. And now there's a bidding war, apparently, with Ripple over Circle, which is Circle is the issuer of the USDC stablecoin, which is the biggest top stablecoin that exists currently. Which is interesting because as we talk about this, wallets and crypto things becoming all finance, stable coins play the most important role in that, bridging crypto and traditional finance and fiat, because crypto, ETH or Bitcoin is still volatile. Stable coins are the answer to kind of bridging that gap. And, Circle is so huge that whether it's going to be acquired by Coinbase or Ripple, or they're going to IPO, which is another option, is kind of like a big deal for the space. Kasal, can you talk a little bit about why it's such a big deal? Like what ends up happening to Circle in this story?
Yeah. So I think USDC initially started with some kind of a agreement with Coinbase.
Coinbase, yeah,
Yeah,
co-founded somehow, yeah.
Exactly. Like I'm not exactly sure about the contract and exact
Yeah.
you know, paragraphs in the contract, but yeah. So I think that one of the main clauses in there was like, yeah, you have to list, Coinbase has to list USDC, which they did, and then I think that brought a lot of credibility to USDC from the get go. But obviously, like USDT is like right now the biggest one, so it's not like they don't have competition. And then on top of that, with the latest what is it called, Genius Act, the Stablecoin Act.
Yeah, the Stablecoin Genius Act. By the way, I don't know. You know how they always make the abbreviation stand for actual words? I actually don't know what the genius stands for. I'm sure it's something funny.
Well, today I learned it's an abbreviation.
No, they always do that with acts, you know, like because I think it's supposed to, it's supposed to try and reflect what the act is for. I think Kale might look it up for us now, but it's the Genius Act. Yeah,
I had no idea. Today I learned. But I think that brings more credibility to stablecoins in general. And I know that like a lot more stable coins coming out, like different, obviously, like it's like USD something or like something USD, prefixes, suffixes. You get confused with everything. And Ripple themselves released their own stable coin. I think it's called RLUSD or something.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I feel like Ripple is in a place that they want to make a comeback. Like that's it. Like they were good in the past, and then and now they want to make something big, and I don't believe like with RLUSD or what their stable coin, their own stable coin, it's like probably not working out the way that they intended it to work out. And
I think they just realized that it's never going to catch up to USDC and USDT and what's happening now.
I think now they're like, okay, we got a ton of money, let's just try to acquire the biggest player or one of the biggest players in the space, so we don't have to build it by ourselves.
You know,
speaking of ton of money, Kale, what did you say? How much does Ripple own?
I was literally just about to say that. They own 41% of XRP. Yeah. And not only they own 41% of XRP, they had the audacity to offer Circle to pay them in XRP. And they're like, we'll give you cash and we'll give you this token that we own 40% of the supply of. It's insane.
Like it's like I don't understand how you can even think of Ripple as a decentralized project. Like if the owners, the founders, however they want to call themselves, owns for over 40%. Like, if crazy. They own over 5%, I'm concerned. Yeah, like exactly. That's a big deal. Like I'm waiting for, I don't know, like Satoshi Nakamoto to like show up one day, be like, yo, I own, I think like it's still like over 5% or something, right? Like the total amount of bitcoins that he owns, or he or she, like never know.
Or they,
them. Yeah. Like show up, hey, I'm gonna use my funds now when like Bitcoin is suddenly like 500k each or something. That would be catastrophic.
Yeah.
And now imagine like, someone owns 40% of their circulation, and
good luck with that.
It's like it's crazy in my opinion. So but hey, I think that's what's happening. I think that they are like, okay, let's just acquire one of the biggest players, so we have foot in the game.
No, yeah, and I mean, like it's interesting to see. I guess who gets there, or the Coinbase with all of its problems is going to get to it first, or Ripple is the super centralized Ripple is going to get to it first, or the stock exchange is going to get to them first, and they're going to just IPO and go their own way, which I'm not even sure what would be the best outcome for us.
I'm also
users.
Interested to know. I mean, maybe you guys know, how does Circle make money from USDC? Because that's
good question. Yeah, good question.
Like if they go IPO, I'm pretty sure they have to show their like revenues every quarter. So,
yeah, no. There's conditions for that, right? So
something to look at. Something for our audience to come back to us. Hey, this is how they make money.
You know what? Now I'm kind of rooting for them to IPO. Now that you brought that up, because I want to know. Like, I want to see how they're making money.
Well, and because you kind of want. Like we, as a self-custody, we are on the self-custody team, decentralization team. We kind of, I think, naturally gravitate kind of to wanting things to stay their own thing as
Yeah.
opposed to, you know. But
Yeah.
but anyway, speaking of who gets there first, let's come back to what we started with, Bancor and Uniswap. So Uniswap, as I think almost everyone knows, is the second biggest decentralized exchange. I think PancakeSwap is currently on top of it, but not
Really?
by that. Yeah, I think so. The last, but not by that much. But I think technically, anyway. But it is, for all intents and purposes, like the biggest, right? Decentralized exchange. Bancor is currently, I believe, in like number 142 or something like that in exchanges. But Bancor is saying that in 2016, they designed the AMM, the all-important AMM, which is the automated market maker, which is what powers automatic swaps in decentralized exchanges, which is what enables them not to have the books that generally an exchange has, like not to wait for an exchange to open, all of that stuff that makes crypto always open, enables self-custody, swapping combined with self-custody, etc. So the AMM, so Bancor says they invented that in 2016, patented in January 2017, and then Uniswap was launched in November 2018. So Bancor is saying now, we invented this technology. Uniswap is getting super rich off of it, which is true. But here's the question. In crypto, there was a while ago, I think this term has gone out of vogue now, but there was a season in crypto where everybody was talking about DeFi Legos. Do you guys remember that? No? Aave, like make, and they were talking about DeFi Legos, meaning that like
Like a modular thing that people can.
yeah, because the
Makes sense.
technology is often open source, available to others. DeFi is being one thing built in another. Like you get these loans and then you build flash loans on top of that. All of these things that, and which has always been hailed by a lot of the crypto industry people as one of the like greatest things about crypto, that you can build these things together on top of each other, and innovation fuels innovation in a way that can't be had. And open sourceness of technology is like a big topic even in traditional tech, but especially in crypto. So, Kusala, I was wondering what you think about this. Does Bancor have a case? Like, what, or are they just being absurd at this point? Like, after 9 years or 7 years of Uniswap existing, and now they coming up with this lawsuit? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like I'm a huge believer in open source, and one thing that I know, patents in software is like one of the most complicated patents. Like nobody wins because like there are a million different ways to write the exact same logic, right? And then just because you end up with the same logic doesn't mean you necessarily copied someone else. And so I'm not 100% sure about how they are approaching this, but I mean, if anything, they're probably going after a settlement, or like trying to make a little bit more money from Uniswap, or trying to, it's one of those things. Like software lawsuits, it's gonna take forever, first of all, because you need million different experts to come in and weigh in and like give their opinion about certain things. And also I'm not sure like how their exact pattern is written, if it's like a logic based, hey, by the way, if this formula works out this way, like it's our pattern. Usually like that's not the case, but let's see how that's gonna go. But like I said, it's one of the most complicated like things to patent, like software logics, and also one of the like hardest things to fight against, because you can always write the exact same thing in different ways. Like no one's gonna go after Google for creating their own AI version compared to like ChatGPT, right? It might give you the exact same answer, but doesn't necessarily mean it's written the same way. And then and probably like the Bancor like logic was open source, like the code was like MIT or something. I know in the past I looked at it. I'm not sure exactly like what their license was for the code, But if they are like, for example, like MIT or any open source licensing, it means like, yeah, as long as you keep your code open source as well, which is exactly what Uniswap does, you're okay. Like you don't have to ask anyone, you don't have to pay anyone. Like just imagine like, Uniswap code has been forked so many times, right?
Which is like one reason why Pancake Swap and all of those things, Sushi Swap, exist in the first place.
Because we literally copied Uniswap code and then created and then
and
changed the
Uniswap
logic
is
a little
not
bit.
suing them as far as I'm aware.
Because they can't, right? Like this is the basis of being open source. Like open source, the main project will always has to advance faster than the other, like whoever is forking them or copying them and then creating their own projects, and that's the only way to stay ahead. And if the main project is not doing that, that means like the clone projects will take over, which is exactly what being open source means. Like you have to advance the technology one way or other, right? Like not necessarily like one person can keep developing over and over and over their project. It's if it's really good, there will come a time when some other team will take over and then take it to the next level, and that's what it means. Like that's what
like the whole
it means
point
to
of
be
it,
open
right?
source. So if someone's coming and being like, hey, by the way, I'm like suing you for copying my code or like my patent after 7 years. So that means they were just waiting for someone to get really big or really rich, and then they're like, yeah, I just need a couple of billions from you, and then I'll end this lawsuit.
To be fair, in the end, they might just get, and it'll just be over. Unless
Honestly,
unless they decide to take a stand, they might.
The unfortunate thing about like lawsuits in general, right? Someone's suing someone. Everyone loses. No one wins at the end. Because they all have to spend a ton of money on their own lawyers, attorney fees, court fees, all these different ones. And then they can drag it. And then these are both big players, right? They have their money. Like they have enough money to make it continue forever, like if they want to. So I think at the end of the day, it'll come down to like, they'll probably settle for something. Be like, hey, this is what it is. And
Uniswap said something that I felt too. They were like, it's unfortunate we have to be like in the squabble in a time when there's so much attention on crypto and we can do so much better things with it. But Kay, like, when you choose things to engage with, like wallets, dApps, and whatever, like open sourceness, does that matter for you?
I mean, it matters, but it's not like the biggest thing that I look for. Like if there is a product that is like just super easy to use, but it's a closed source thing, like I'll probably use it. But just like overall, in general, builders trying to patent software, especially in crypto, I feel like it's just a bad look and not productive. Because like if Satoshi or Vitalik or Kasala or literally like anybody who's building in crypto, if they were like patenting their stuff, like we wouldn't be where we are right now.
I mean, like Mu was the first Ethereum wallet in 2015, and I think many projects in the space took some little bit of code from there, which is great because the space exploded. There's so many choices. The more of that, the more choices users have. Like it's a different thing when somebody tries to clone your interface, because that's a security risk for a user. That's different. You don't want somebody to steal your pictures, basically, and make somebody
logos,
else.
Right? Like branded items.
And because usually that's done for, malicious reasons. They are trying to, like, that's a different thing. And I think it's worth taking a stand and being like, hey, guys, we appreciate, that you're respecting our product and you want to fork it, but, please come up with some of your own pictures and colors,
exactly.
like for your website.
Bancor's down so bad, they're basically pulling the copy infringement play on 2 + 2 = 4. They're saying we own this, and you can't use it.
Like,
seriously.
Well,
it's sad. But like Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever they could have patented Bitcoin and like released it, right? The brand new technology. Ethereum Foundation could have patented Ethereum, and then like none of these other forks L2s would even exist. or like they have
Yeah.
to pay
The
something to
space
foundation.
would
The
not
space would- yeah.
exist the way we know it today. So that,
Yeah.
and that would be, I think we can all agree that that would be a loss. No matter where it goes from here, it would be a loss if the crypto space didn't evolve as it did now. It taught us so many things about,
100%.
about technology, about cryptography, about self-custody, about finance, and where, all the possibilities and decentralization and all that. Anyway, on that high and very lofty note, I think it's that time when we reluctantly have to stop talking over each other for now. But we do it only because we love making sense of crypto for ourselves and for you, our dear listeners. And if you haven't already, please follow the podcast, give us a good review, share with your friends, share with your enemies if that's how you roll. All our socials are in the description. We'd love to hear from you about pretty much anything, really. Let us know if you have opinions on our outfits or hair. We'll hear that as well. And thanks for joining me today, Kosala
Thank you for having me.
and Kale.
I'll see you guys later.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
All right.